Okay, everyone, welcome. Um, I am Lama Rod. Welcome to those of you who are new to our time together. This is our Medicine Buddha practice. And Medicine Buddha and whatever else I decide to talk about um, as well. So, um, and welcome back to those of you who are regular practitioners with me here. Okay. Of course, we're going to wait a little bit as people come into the space. But I wanted to announce, um, and I will announce this several times, that we will be, Bhumi Sparsha and I will be creating um, kind of a practice leader facilitator group um, for Medicine Buddha so that when I'm away, um, we don't have to cancel practice. So this is going to be for those of you who do like the daily sits, um, very similar model. Um, but I want to just create just a few basic practices from what we do and have been doing. And it'll be something that a practice leader would come on and just kind of facilitate, so we can at least kind of keep the momentum of the space going when I'm not able to be here. Um, and we will send out an email this week through Bhumi Sparsha, so you have to be signed up to Bhumi Sparsha's email lists to disclose the details. We're setting up. We have one, maybe two times, workshops, times and dates that I'll be just walking people who are interested in practice leading through just the practices that we'll have while I'm away. So nothing like too serious. I really just want people who have been practicing here for a while. And part of this move is also I want us to start creating more community um, and creating more ways to practice. And I think the best way to do that, one of the best ways to do that, is for those of you who have been really practicing to share some of your experiences. And so part of the practice leader would be, sharing, your experiences of medicine Buddha, because I think this is how, well, I know this is how lineages grow and deepen, is when practitioners start sharing their experiences and actually allowing their experiences to inform practice as well. So you'll get that in an email as well. I'm just spraying some rose water as well right now. It feels very gay what I'm doing. I'm just spraying, rose water. I have my sachet away, like tank top, sachet away. This is why usually, it's like a sachet away. It's just like a little spell, a little incantation that we can use when people get on our nerves. You can just say sachet away. But that's it. That's the announcement. I would love, it does. I don't really have like a cap for the number of people who are interested. If you're interested, just respond to the email when it comes out, and you'll get the time and date to meet. We may actually, do some other like survey kinds of things for the practice as well. But I do really want us to. We'll have other gatherings through the practice where we'll be able to be on Zoom, for instance. We'll be able to see each other. And more than likely, in the fall, there will be more in person practices around Medicine Buddha as well, locally, definitely here in Atlanta. Okay? All right. Questions. I'm going to get to questions today. So, questions, go and ask a question. You know what? Do we have the link for the prayer doc? I have this. I have yet another idea about this prayer doc. I wonder. I know that there are weeks that I don't get to the questions. I wonder if we could have like keep a list of questions in that doc as well. But I don't want to complicate things either. So let me hold off on that idea. We change in increments, not in these great movements. But so questions, and ask a question. We're gonna get started pretty soon, as well, letting people come into the space. Oh, actually, what would be probably super convenient? So I see Eric's email here, at eric@boomingspasha.org. You could actually email Eric as well to let him know your interest, if you're interested in doing some practice leading, as well. So that would be great, as well. Awesome. So, what's going on in the world? There's so much happening in the world. Um, oh, thank you, Randa. Like the rose water. I do love. Actually, Sister Sadada gave me this rose water. She actually gave me this little, what is this? A little pouch. So this was our like team gift, when we were teaching in the UK in March. So she supplied this to our team over in the UK, and it's full of all kinds of magical healing things, candles, ceremonial candles, but you could always have lots of. And what is this? Oh, yep, frankincense. Yeah, it's really good. It's really good to have basic supplies like this, around. I keep everything around. Lots of candles, incense, because it's such a nice, really easy, nice way to lift energy in space with natural lights and incense and so forth. Actually, I'm gonna get started with that as well. So, doing some candle work again, and we're gonna get started after this. I just, in the summer, it feels like, for me, this, in terms of ceremony and the season, it feels like I'm really like, oriented towards light. And I think also because of the time that we're living in. So many magical traditions. And Medicine Buddha is a magical tradition. Tantra is a magical, tradition. So many magical, traditions are really about, let's see, metaphors. Can I say that? Metaphors where we're using one thing to create an abundance of something else. Or we're using the symbol of something to intensify it. So candles, light, for instance. You work with candles in order to create, this, well, it creates, it's like an anchor actually. A candle becomes an anchor that we begin to actually project the essence, the energy of light into different dimensions or different states of mind or different levels of consciousness. You take the energy of light, which is essence of light, but it depends on what kind of light it is. So we're working with fire this time. So fire, the essence of fire, is actually about transmuting. So using fire to extract energy from a basic material, and then using other, mantras, visualizations, and so forth to direct that energy. Or you can get like a wand, but this is a mallet. Getting like a wand and just direct energy around, but using fire to create, to release the essence of something. So, like I light this candle. So I'm not really transmuting anything when I initially light this candle. However, when I take this cone of incense, this is sage, and when I use the light, the fire begins to transform this sage into this new substance, which is smoke. And at this point, a lot of things are happening, right? One, the essence of sage itself is being released into the space, and sage is this plant, right? This sage is kind of very, very much an evolved plant consciousness, and releasing the essence of sage as smoke, into the space begins to actually impact the energy of the space through the intelligence of sage's consciousness, I would say. Because we use sage for purification, sage as an offering, and so forth. So the transmutation is still happening, and it begins to deepen when I begin to imagine dedicating or offering this smoke to something. When I direct the energy of the smoke to, in this case, my ancestors, right? That's the transmutation from the fire that through intention, through imagination, right? And through this basic natural inherent link that we have mentally and psychically with different worlds and different planes of existence, I can begin to direct the awakened intelligent consciousness of sage into different realms of being, where the essence of this begins to benefit. And it begins to benefit because my intention is also one of wanting to benefit as well. So I'm not trying to curse anything, but I'm trying to help, right? Now, Buddhist Tantra is quite advanced in this kind of dedication, this kind of like transmutation, right? Because another way to describe this process is puja. This is actually a fire puja. So when we use fire to transmute material, right, and that transmutation again is pulling out the essence of material, right? And the essence is energy, and then directing that energy somewhere to do something, in this case, directing the energy of sage into um, the experiences or the realm of my ancestors, right? Which is kind of just another plane, different level of frequency, right? And another thing you can think about too is how in every process, in every, I would say, al- alchemic. So alchemy, right, is one of the root magic system. Um, so alchemy is about, it's also about transmutation. It's about transference. It's about transforming, right? It's about shifting. The science of alchemy is about really transforming the molecular level of material, and that's also philosophical as well. Not just the literal molecular atomic arrangement of materials, but also philosophically, how do we transform things from one thing to another? How do we move one thing from one realm to another realm? And I think that is a part of alchemy. But another part of alchemy, too, which is also, for me, this is just my opinion here, is actually thinking about the energies, the presences, the um, the beings, I guess, the conscious, intelligent beings who are associated with every part of this process, from the fire, from the candle, to incense and sage. There are beings, there are conscious, intelligent energies associated with each stage of this process. You know, for instance, fire. You know, there are fire deities, fire gods in all cultures, really. Um, in Tantra, right, you know, we usually are praying to Agni, right? Agni, the god of fire. When I look at the smoke, I think of Dhumavati Ma, Dhumavati, the goddess of smoke. One of the things that she's the mother of the smoke, right? When you connect to like these conscious energies, these consciousnesses as associated with the different expressions of ceremony and ritual, then they become doorways that intensify the power, you know, or the end goal, right, of the process, right? And so when I pray to Agni, when I'm lighting the candle, then there's a kind of intensity that goes into the fire. The fire becomes sacred in a way because I'm bringing this level of awareness about the dynamics of fire. You know, not just the physical dynamics, but also the spiritual, unseen dynamics of fire, right? When I start connecting to that, then I begin to have a fuller experience of fire, right? One of the ways that we train with fire, and this is just my training, and one day, actually, if you are coming on retreat with me up in New Hampshire, um, or at Southern Dharma later this year, you know, I always do lots of fire puja work, right? And in fire puja work, the preliminary practices of fire puja, in my personal practice, is actually connecting to the consciousness of fire in the phenomenal world, connecting to the energy of fire, right, and the world around me, and I begin to connect to that, and also begin to draw that energy into me. Usually, I draw it into the solar plexus, right, which is the navel, which is about heat and transformation, right? Metabolism. To really begin to awaken the third chakra and then transfer that energy as part of the ritual into fire puja, right? And that's the way you begin to honor the power of fire, but also beginning to honor the deities associated with fire, as well. So, just a little bit of exploration of that. So this is, I don't know how did I get here. Fire, flames, incense. So it's just basically, what I'm basically doing is breaking down rituals. So because it seems like everything that we would do in magical rituals and ceremonies may seem weird and odd, but a lot of things are quite functional. At least everything that I've been exposed to and studied. But for me, being rooted in Tantra, and Tantra being an expression or training in awareness and consciousness, I bring awareness, right? But awareness is actually a part of the traditional magic anyway. But when you come from meditation into magic, the magic actually is much stronger because you have the basic training, and experience and awareness, right? Which is learning to hold everything, hold all phenomena within your awareness without reacting, letting everything be, and that's the steadiness and the concentration you bring to intensify the power and impact of ritual as well. Developing this kind of relationship with the phenomenal world, particularly with elements, is so, I think important, right? So another example, here's another element. So when you're working magic, I think it's really important to always have all the elements present, right? So you're always going to have air. If we don't have air, we wouldn't be alive. But air is also space as well. That's also part of this air element. But I have earth, right? So I have earth. I have some Palo Santos. Of course, I have sage. So I have earth represented. I have fire represented. Of course, space, air is represented. Water, right here, is represented. So even with the water, I already actually have been spraying the rose water, right? So let me see if I can't find it again. What did I do with my rose water? Isn't it weird how you can have your hands on something, then all of a sudden, I think I put it back in the pouch here. So rose water. So you add this, it's a ceremony. I actually have some water here as well. Even when drinking water, you can connect to the consciousness of water. We did this maybe in our Saturday retreat last weekend. I think we connected with water, with the element of water in the earth. We did it here in this session. But again, bringing all these elements together, you're not just bringing these elements together, but you're developing a connection to these elements through awareness, right? Reflecting on water, but actually beginning to, take on the energy of water, absorb the energy of water, right? right? And because I do this often, like I can just connect, really quickly, which is for me, it just feels like when I connect to water, it just feels like often standing under a waterfall, right? But this waterfall is like energy, this kind of flowing, moving, through these different expressions of my body, not just the physical body, but the mental body, my mental body, my energy body, right? It was very like Captain Planet and Sailor Moon, and all these kinds of like cartoons and shows that are about the elements and people welding the power of the elements, you know. But when you bring all the elements together energetically in ceremony, then you have a really powerful ceremony. You know? But it takes developing energetic and conscious or awareness based connections to the elements that you're using, to all the elements. So, I mean, this is something, again, I wouldn't be sharing it if I didn't want you to try it, in your practice. Like, just really to deepen the work, the magic, the healing that we're working on is really about deepening our relationships to the materials that we're using to bring about this energetic shift, right, in the world or in the situations that we're praying for. And by the way, just a reminder, prayer requests link is right there at the top of the chat, so go ahead and put your prayer requests there if you haven't already. Forgot to mention that. And to sit and just to like rest your awareness in the intertwining, the interrelatedness of all the elements. Right? Maybe just starting with fire, as a bit of a practice. The heat. But fire is more than heat. What does the heat represent? Right, Paul Santos. So Palo Santos, yes, being wood, represents the earth. I would say that in this kind of emergence of American tantric magic or whatever's happening, whatever I'm doing, whatever's happening, let's just call it that for right now. So much of this is, which I think this is training in all magic, but actually coming back and developing a relationship to the raw material of everything that you're using in ceremony. To know the essence of things. This is what we do if you're a plant medicine practitioner, right, you have to really unlock the power of plant consciousness. You have to go really deep, working with particular plants. It can be any plant. It doesn't have to be, these classic medicinal plants like ayahuasca or whatever or whatever. But it can just be vegetables and fruits or teas, right? There's power. There's consciousness awaiting to be awoken, awaiting to be awoken, waiting to be awakened. Let's do that one. But the roots of this is just really like when I started cooking, you know, and I just grew up cooking, and I found myself doing professional cooking in my 20s. Self-taught. But one of the things that I would do, particularly if it was like something new that I was making, or if I was just like, when I really began to take cooking seriously, I would taste all my ingredients. If I'm working with a new ingredient, I always taste the raw ingredients, right? It may be a spice or an herb, right? Because I want to have an experience of the essence of this ingredient before I add it to make whatever I'm making, right? I want to know how everything's expressing itself in its rawest form, or in the form that comes to me before I cook with it. I want to know how the material transforms when heat is applied, when it's cooked, right? As heat does, as fire does, transforms, transmutes, changes. And that's going to give me a deeper sense of how everything works together when everything's combined, right? And this is the same thing in spiritual practice, right? You just want to have a sense of what everything is, right? And sometimes this is why we break down practice in the ways that we do, because you want to have a sense of how these different parts feel, what our experiences of these different parts are, before we bring them together. And then this is like the basis for any direction you want to move in, in terms of practice. Like, what do you want? Why are you practicing? Where are you going? This is where you begin to shift the energy, right? One of the things that I can do now, looking at the smoke, I think about the Mavanti, the rising of the smoke, right? And I imagine that the smoke actually begins to, I think the smoke actually becomes, in my practice, just everything that I'm just trying to lift out of my experience. So the anger, the anxiety, the sadness, whatever it may be, I imagine that it's like smoke lifting out of my experience. The light, the candle, becomes the ways in which I begin to illuminate parts of my experience that I want clarity in. Of course, air is like space, but space can also be related to spirit. Depends for me on the time of day, on the day itself, where I go with that. But space becomes the space itself for things to happen. If there were no space, nothing would happen, right? So I submit all of this, I offer everything to this element of air to create the space and the movement, to move this energy in the way that I want it moved. I'm lifting it out, illuminating, places in my experience that feel dark and ambiguous. And then water, again, many properties, flowing, movement, but also the universal solvent. So water becomes something that begins to dissolve things and move things out. So in body practice, air, like breath, and air and water elements are combined in breath movement. Pranayama work to create this kind of flow of movement and dissolving. Like when we, when we practice inhaling into something that feels uncomfortable, and then imagining that the inhale begins to dissolve that energy, we begin to release that energy in the out breath, right? So the dissolving of the energy is the water element, right? The movement, and the space to move it is the water, it's the air element, along with space. But when you start connecting to the essence of these elements, then you start actually uncovering the work of these essences. Of course, this is like so much a part of doing group work and conjuring as well. It's like you wanna know how the raw materials function. You want to know the energy, right? Because we want to ask these raw materials, the roots, which can be both literal plant roots or just the basic essence of the material that we're using in the work. Like we want to know what the energy is so we know how to move it, we know how to partner with it, to get it moving, and then we know how to create practices and rituals from the basic raw materials of the elements. So again, when you know or have this experience of the essence of something, then you can ally with it and then ask it to do something, right? So if I'm lighting Palo Santos, right, I am often lighting Palo Santos, actually asking it to be as an expression of the earth. I'm actually asking it to ground me. So when I'm lighting Palo Santos, it's not so much about anything in the space, but it's actually just about me feeling, wanting to experience the energetic rootedness, groundedness of the earth itself in a different form. So again, I really encourage you to to practice with this. You know, you don't have to set up any special thing. Like these are practices that we do moving through the world. I know there's a big old heat wave happening everywhere, a lot of places. So that's an opportunity to practice, you know, with fire, right? And of course, in Tantric Buddhism, we have Tumo practice, which is working with body heat, but it's actually about consciousness and energetic body, and how physical heat is just one of the expressions of intensifying consciousness and awareness, but it's still part of fire, right? The heat, the transformation. How in smoke you can also begin to imagine that the space around you begins to be clear, to be purified and cleansed. That the smoke can actually begin to actually cleanse our perception of things as well. But here's the creativity. Right? This is where you just get really creative. Like this is like magic. It's just like this creative field that you begin to play with. Right, you can take the candle, begin to imagine that the luminosity, the radiance of the light is something that begins to radiate around you. That there's this field of radiance, of white light around you in this moment, and that becomes a kind of protection for you. So it becomes like a barrier, a shield, you know, or what you would call in magic, protection circle, protection field. And that's what the seven homecomings is. As I've said over and over again, it's just the seven homecomings is many things, and one of those things is protection circle, to do work. Right, to do work. And that's basic part of Tantric Buddhism. When you're doing intense ritual, set up the protection circle. Because this is also about the power of the mind. It's beginning to believe that the mind, its imagination, is actually creating realities in some way. And can just be the practice as well, sitting with the essence of these elements, doing these kinds of visualizations. This can just be the practice itself, right? So let's begin to call in our benefactors, or you can think about them as your protection circle. Like, what do you need right now? And I'll answer that. You always need a protection circle. You know, I think that's just really common. Always reflect on protection. You know, but at the beginning of practice, beginning to call into the space, or again, your benefactors. All the beings who love you. And you even bring in other material, you know, like the crystal ball, or quartz or clear crystal quartz. Right? And again, as we talked about in retreats, in 1 day retreat, crystal, so again, here's the hack. You look at something, and what do you think a crystal ball represents? Like that's where you begin in terms of connecting to the essence of the material, even if it's this stone medicine work, right? Like, what do I, it's a clear ball of quartz, right? So again, we can also say, well, this is also earth element. So this is a natural forming material that comes from the earth. Here you go, right? And it's clear. That means it's about clarity, right? It's about getting clear. It's about wisdom. And clear, transparent things, materials, are also about movement and fluidity. It's also about awakening. It's also about being definite, clear, boundary. So at this point, all I'm doing is tuning into the consciousness of the quartz here. Like, the quartz is actually telling me how it wants to be used. And this is also a foundation of stone medicine work, right? You begin to listen to, and those of you who do work with stones, who do stone medicine, stones are very conscious. They have very strong personalities, at least the stones that I carry. A very strong personality, right? And they'll tell you if you listen, right? If you tune your awareness into the frequency of the stone, it begins to tell you how it wants to be used, right? And also it tells you that it doesn't want to be around you either sometimes. So, so when I bring clear quartz into practice, and this is the majority of my stones, I only have black and clear stones, really mostly, that I work with. When I'm working with a clear stone, it's about opening. So I'm opening and grounding, right? So keep going. Again, calling in to the space, your benefactors, any being who loves you, living or dead, the deity or ordinary, it doesn't matter. All the beings who love me, I invite you to come here, right? To surround me, to create this circle of protection and care around me. And get into this. So ritual and ceremony, I guess technically this is more ritual, but we'll get to that in a later teaching. Ritual is about really stepping into, playing with this, embodying the work that's happening in the ritual. And this is one of the things that I had to learn and really train hard in, is to show up for ritual. Right? When I call in my benefactors, my homecoming circle, like, I want to feel my homecoming circle. I want to reflect on all the beings that I am conscious of who are joining the circle. Like, I want to start feeling their care for me. I want to consider this, that this is really happening. in me and around me. And the consciousness of the stone medicine, of this quartz, is actually helping me to open even more widely, more expansively to this energy of care. Feeling the care, feeling the presence of your benefactors beginning to awaken in the space around you. Offering, incense, if you have it. It's probably a good idea if you're seriously practicing with me just to collect some of these items. So I have a feeling you're going to be using it more and more. Get your tool bag of things together. And of course my basic tool bag is candles, incense, right? Crystals, stones. The candle, we offer the light of the candle to your benefactors around you. And again, all this lines up with all many forms, many magical traditions, and of course me being rooted in Tantra, like this definitely lines up with Tantra as well. When you gather your guests in Tantric rituals, there's always a section where you're doing various offerings to the beings that you've invited. So you're offering incense and light and water and so forth in the practice. But the generosity that begins to awaken here is it invites us into this collaboration, this relationship. Once we're in a relationship, like a real relationship is give and take. I'm taking things, I'm offering things. This is how you begin to intensify the power of ritual. Again, not just getting involved and imagining and feeling, but also opening to this giving, this generosity. And this all can be a matter of imagination, or it can be literal offerings that one would make. In terms of food and light and water, sacrifices, this is part of magic as well. We're not doing sacrifices. I don't do sacrifices in this magic, but something has to be offered, right, for work to happen. For prayers to be really the most potent, like what are we offering to the prayer itself? What kind of love, motivation, and care, what are we offering to the beings whom we're praying for to help us bring about the fulfillment of prayers? Always giving. Always give because we're taking so much in ways that maybe we're not conscious of. right? And I want your practice to be as simple as this, right? To be as simple as this, as a very basic opening when I need to open, a basic inviting of beings that I need help from. Like all we have to do is open, and everything is there. Open, open, and everything is there. But some of us maybe have to work a little harder to make sure that what we're opening to isn't something um, that's dangerous, maybe a little dark. Um, so you have to be intentional about calling what you want into the space that you want to connect to as well, right? Until you get to a position, into this experience where you're just always attracting the energy that you need and want. It becomes habitual. But at the beginning, you really have to like be intentional and say, I only want beings who are trying to help, to benefit me, around me, and those are the consciousness that I want to connect to and practice. And then beginning to allow your circle of benefactors to radiate care into the circle around you. I know some of you are probably well down the road in the practice. For those of you who are just moving along, just opening, allowing your benefactors to radiate care. And what does that care look like? How are you perceiving that care? Is it light? Is it warmth? What is it? Is it just, for those of you who, some of you are just really connected to this basic quality of energy, which can be maybe experienced as electromagnetic static, I guess the best way I would say it. Right? The crinkly, picky energy that you can feel maybe sometimes physically in the body. Sometimes that's experienced as heat, we can imagine it as light, or actually, we don't have to feel it or sense it at all, right? Which is also considered divine. Just believing that it's happening is enough as well. So you don't have to have experiences. This is what I'm saying. Just the conviction that if you have the conviction and the intention, then something is happening. Intention always creates movement. It always shifts reality. It may be a little bit of shift, but it always shifts, and that's why we always start with intention. Why am I doing this? You begin to absorb that energy of care into the body, filling the body with this energy. Now here is a point in practice that I want us to be careful with, and as we move a little deeper. So I want to give two kinds of instructions here. As we move a little deeper, this course is going to open us up to our mantra practice soon. So the first set of instructions here, and you're going to decide which one of these instructions you'll follow, whatever feels appropriate for you. So as you're sitting, right, surrounded by benefactors or homecoming circle, however you've created this in your practice, feeling them radiate care into the circle, feeling yourself absorb that care into the body. And in this first practice, and for those of you who want to do this, I want you to start imagining that this energy of care begins to deeply saturate your body, that your body becomes full of this energy. So full that this energy of care begins to slowly dissolve your physical body. And so your awareness is actually what you feel grounded in. So the awareness, the consciousness, this experience of knowing, of sensitivity, you're just dissolved down or into this basic experience of awareness, where everything is simply being held, nothing is being reacted to. And if this doesn't feel stable for you, just return your attention just to absorbing this energy of care. If you need more grounding, of course, connecting to the weight of your body and the seat rising to hold you. But regardless of which part of the practice you're working with, the earth is always holding us, right? So if we feel really maybe ungrounded, maybe begin to experience some disassociation, return your attention to the earth, pray to the earth for grounding, for stabilization. And again, we don't have to do everything on our own. Like if we can't work through this association with the methods that we have, then we just pray to the elements that can hold us and ground us. This is elemental medicine magic, basically, that's reflected in every form of magic that I've been exposed to. But sitting in consciousness itself, if you're working with in the awareness practice itself, holding everything, noticing everything, letting everything rise and fall in your experience. So we're going to begin with our first mantra, our first medicine Buddha mantra, Om Minma Sangye Kino Soha. Medicine Buddha, please think of me, please know me, please remember me. And again, awakening, particularly the consciousness of Medicine Buddha and the practice, right? The great Buddha of healing, Minma Sangye, right? The Medicine Buddha. We begin with Om, and then we move into chanting the mantra a couple of times. Okay? And we're beginning. Om La Sangye Kino Soha. Om La Sangye Kino Soha. Om La Sangye Kino Soha. And so we can trust that the consciousness of Medicine Buddha has awoken in this space. And that within this awareness, or within the energy of care, like that is the birthplace, the arising of the deity. Medicine Buddha, Minla Sangye, arises from awareness, arises from the energy of care itself. And what does that feel like? How are you registering, relating to this really abstract experience? But how is your body or your mind grounding this really abstract experience in your practice? Are you getting visions or feelings or pictures or impressions? Or are you feeling something? And can you imagine offering to this experience of Medicine Buddha, however Medicine Buddha is arising for you, offering light and incense or water or air or space or even love back to Medicine Buddha? So we're going to move into our first part of our mantra, our main mantra, as we sit with this energy. And in the mantra practice, this first mantra practice, part of the mantra practice is just sitting in this. What are you feeling? If you're feeling love, just sit in the love, melt into the love. And of course, tem até bacon say, ma bacon say, nasa sumagat soha, right? It's about the healing. It's about purifying, cleansing the root of suffering. Right? And may it be so for us and all beings, that the root of our suffering ends from now on. And in this energetic space, I just kind of let go. This is where you can meet God, right? This is where we meet the saints. Again, like we've called all these energies, these beings into the space where you can meet with anyone, any being that's here to help. But it's also that's here to restore you. So as you can listen to the chant or chant along. But either way, I want you to be praying for restoration. The deepest, most transformational kinds of restoration. Again. Sumungat soa So we're going to transition into offering our prayers. Okay. All right. Again, we especially call the attention of all the beings around us as we offer these prayers. Again, all the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Dharma protectors, benevolent ancestors, deities, saints, all the elements, all the protectors of the land itself. All beings we offer these prayers to, and we ask you to work on our behalf to bring about the fulfillment of these prayers. We're offering prayers for Aisha and Eddie. I'm offering prayers for my niece Cora, who is at sleep away camp for the first time. I'm offering prayers for Alex and Laura. May they receive the help they need with their addictions. Prayers for Weasley Dog for severe hip dysplasia and pain. Offering prayers for me as I take big risks and break through old paradigms to ask for the support I need to do my job, to grieve, to stay connected, and evolve. Offering prayers for Kalivia Amaka, having hip replacement surgery on the 28th. Prayers for my mother's spirit, wherever she may be now. Prayers for me as I navigate this liminal period, obtaining a new car after losing mine in a crash, remodeling and moving into my childhood home, separating from the world of work, shifting attachments to new communities. And prayers for Muffy, may she find a light. Offering prayers for Marissa, may she find her bravery again. May she find her true self, and may she be whole. Offering prayers for Alex, may he feel at peace with himself and experience some happiness and hope. Offering prayers for Aunt True, who recently passed. Prayers for Faith, who recently passed. Prayers for me and my husband in our recovery from COVID. Prayers for Susan and her circulatory system. And prayers for Joel. Offering prayers for George as he undergoes treatment for lymphoma. Prayers for myself as I continue to heal from foot surgery. Offering prayers for Alan as he undergoes prep and medical treatment this week. Offering prayers for Shirley, who is caring for her 98-year-old mom and 95-year-old dad as her mom navigates some physical challenges and her dad deals with dementia, and for her parents. Prayers that fear loses its hold on all hearts, so love may shine in. Offering prayers that my heart stays open and is being prepared for gifts of strength and faith. Prayers for me and others experiencing chronic health flare-ups and feeling despair. Offering prayers for my dad's heart failure. May he have good health and ease. Offering prayers for Lama Rod as he taps into emptiness and consciousness and translates into words for us to elevate our understanding. Prayers for Nathan to help him recover from the major surgery he had last Tuesday. Prayers for my sweet, differently abled cat, Pip, who at 2 years old is having seriously threatening kidney issues. May she continue to radiate joy and be vibrantly healthy in body, heart, and spirit, and mind for many years to come. Offering prayers for myself, to learn to hold space for and not be consumed by grief and loss and triggered by this, and bringing up unresolved grief and loss from the past. Prayers for our chosen sibling Erica to move through a hard and mental health moment, move through her grief and feel loved and accepted and whole. Prayers for myself and everyone who is experiencing financial hardship and lack. Prayers for those who are recovering from COVID or long COVID, and for those suffering from monkeypox in our country, who tend to be communities of color and gay men, that they may receive care and medical attention. Prayers for all who are suffering greatly, that they feel deep care and rest. Prayers for those without hope, that they are sustained in hopelessness until it passes. Prayers that it does pass and the big love is on the other side. Prayers for my tiny family, that they may be safe from harm, experience the care they need throughout life, and feel at ease. Prayers for all victims and survivors of mass shootings. May their suffering ease, and may their loved ones be remembered always. Prayers for my friend Faye's mother, who is recovering from a stroke. Prayers for my father Ed, who struggles with severe pain that affects his mobility. Prayers for all beings experiencing fear, destabilization, and violence. Prayers for focus and commitment as I complete the second draft of my book. Prayers for Julio's sick mother, for those that are stuck in habit patterns, for all beings suffering. Love and prayers for my family, especially my parents, for El, my community, for Bumima, Tibet, for Lama Rod, and all the keepers of the 3 gems. Prayers for me to be able to complete this degree without being colonized, for my health and well-being, and for further embodiment of joy and healing in all that I do. Prayers for the liberation and healing of all beings in all realms across time and space. Prayers for help in navigating how to find community that I can grow into, feed and thrive with. Prayers of support for my sister, Megan H., as she navigates breast cancer. Prayers that we all find our way to support and liberation. Prayers for my daughter, Hollister Trott, and her husband, Andy Binder, who are doing much better, but still recovering from COVID. For my son, Jamie Trott, who is about 4 days into getting COVID, that he recovers as quickly as possible. Continued prayers for Julie Holderness, who died suddenly by being struck by a van about 2 weeks ago. and for her family and friends. Prayers for myself for practice and hope with regard to healing from knee surgery so that I can get moving again. Prayers for myself and everyone who has deep fears about climate change. Prayers to move the hearts and minds of our inactive and stubborn politicians playing roulette with the planet. Prayers for myself and everyone's fears about the state of our democracy and future elections. Prayers for renewed energy and connection to everything here and on other levels of consciousness, to work for my own healing and for others as well. Prayers for all of our mothers. Prayers for my brother and him to connect to his sense of purpose. Prayers for Aisha and her son, daughter-in-law, and grandchildren. I lift up all the prayers that remain unspoken as well in this space. I lift up prayers for all of you who are offering prayers in this space, that you receive what you need in order to be well, happy, safe, and resourced. I pray for this world and all the worlds, that all beings may have access to everything that they need to be well, safe, happy, and healthy. I pray that all systems of violence are eradicated. I pray that all the roots and conditions of suffering are disrupted. I pray that all beings come to know their true nature, and that we are liberated sooner than later, and that we all may return back to our innate Buddhahood. May it be so. As we move back into this last portion of chanting, and then eventually into Durga Ma, I encourage you just to release the energy of these prayers, including anxiety and fear and worry, into this experience of being held, into the experience of pure consciousness itself, into the experience of care. Just release, let go. We begin again. Begenze, ma begenze, rasa sumum gatte soa. 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 Rasa sumum gatte soa. Begenze, ma begenze, rasa sumum gatte soa. Begenze, ma begenze, rasa sumum gatte soa. Begenze, ma suman got this they had bacons, my bacons, as a suman got this they had bacons, my bacons, as a suman got this they had bacons, my bacons, as a suman got this they had bacons, my bacons, as a suman got this they had bacons, my bacons, as a suman got this they had bacons, my bacons, as a suman got this they had bacons, my bacons, as a suman got this they had bacons, my bacons, as a suman got this they had bacons, my bacons, as a suman got this they had bacons, my bacons, as a suman got this they had bacons, my bacons, as a suman got this they had bacons, my bacons, as a suman got this And so just for a moment, just coming back and just grounding ourselves, shifting our attention to the weight of the body and the seat, rising to meet our bodies. And then turning our attention back to this experience of our homecoming circle, our benefactors, our protection circle, however you're thinking about that. And we begin, just offer a prayer to our benefactors that they protect us and all those connected to us. Our loved ones, our communities. And then we begin to imagine the sacred consciousness of the mother. And the mother as expressed through the experience of Mother Durga, Durga Ma. The great mother of protection, fierceness, boundaries. Mother who confronts the darkness of violence and hate. As we begin to chant her mantra, and imagine that her protection begins to surround us in our communities. Om Drum Durgaye Namaha. And to the mother who is kind and protective, to those of us who are trying to benefit, trying to do good, and the mother who is fierce and wrathful, to those of us who are not trying to be a benefit. And may the mother arise in whatever way feels appropriate to support our deepest aspirations for freedom and liberation. And again, beginning with then going into just a few rounds of the mantra. Om Dum Doye Namaha. 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 Om. Just coming back to the seat, the weight of the body, the contact of the body on the seat. Making any final prayers that we need to make before we begin to transition out of practice. Thanking our benefactors, our protection circle. Praying to them that they always protect us and guide us. When you're ready, beginning to reawaken the body with some simple movements. Maybe a few deep cleansing breaths. And then we'll transition into Shantideva's prayer, which we'll recite 3 times. May I be a protector for those without protection, a leader for those who journey, and a boat, a bridge, a passage for those desiring the further shore. May the pain of every living creature be completely cleared away. May I be the doctor and the medicine, and may I be the nurse for all sick beings in the world, until everyone is healed. Just like space and the great elements such as earth, I always support the life of all the boundless creatures, and until they pass away from pain, might also be the source of life for all the realms of varied beings that reach into the ends of space. May I be a protector to those without protection, a leader for those who journey, and a boat, a bridge, a passage for those desiring the further shore. May the pain of every living creature be completely cleared away. May I be the doctor and the medicine, and may I be the nurse for all sick beings in the world until everyone is healed. Just like space and the great elements such as earth, I always support the life of all the boundless creatures, and until they pass away from pain, I also be the source of life for all the realms of varied beings that reach into the ends of space. And finally, may I be a protector to those without protection, a leader for those who journey, and a boat, a bridge, a passage for those desiring the further shore. May the pain of every living creature be completely cleared away. May I be the doctor and the medicine, and may I be the nurse for all sick beings in the world until everyone is healed. Just like space and the great elements such as earth, I always support the life of all the boundless creatures, and until they pass away from pain, may I also be the source of life for all the realms of the varied beings that reach into the ends of space. Okay, wonderful. I'm just going to just briefly go over the questions as well. Let's see. Could you speak to the connections between the energy of fire and consuming rather than being consumed by? especially with respect to the fire provers working with grief and heartache about this time of apocalypse. So, in this case, it's about developing an agency over what is being consumed and what is being offered into the fire. And when you're working with these kinds of rituals, you have to be clear about what's being offered. Because if you're not, then everything gets burned out. Any element can be out of control, can be out of balance, right? But it makes it more likely for elemental matter to be out of balance if we're not clear about what we're trying to do and what's being offered, right? So the clarity here is really important, right? And it's hard to be clear. So clarity is about agency. It's hard to have agency right now when you're feeling so exhausted, when you're feeling so overwhelmed, right? Again, the spiritual hack or bypass here is always pray for what we need. If I need energy or focus or something to do ritual, I pray for that. I pray to my guides, to my protectors, to my deities, to my ancestors for what I need in order to move through the ritual in a way that won't feel so violent for me. You're feeding the grief, the heartache, right? But, you have to, the thing with fire is that we're always thinking about getting burned, right? And that's the power of fire, because it's always transforming, turning things into something else, and that's always the situation. But again, the higher tantric view of this is that, emptiness is emptiness. My body is just an expression of emptiness. Fire is an expression of emptiness as well. So to offer anything into a fire is essentially to offer emptiness back into emptiness, which is the foundational philosophy of working with wisdom deities, like Medicine Buddha. We're offering things to the deity. Does Medicine Buddha need incense and candle light? No, because it's ultimately actually not what we're offering. We're offering the recognition that everything is a play of emptiness. If we can get into that game, then we begin to game the system of samsara. You're oh, this is just emptiness. There's nothing here that's inherently existing. So when I offer something to a wisdom deity in my meditation or in my practice, I know that I'm offering emptiness back to emptiness. And when I do that, I am leaning into the reality, the truth of things itself, right? I'm offering emptiness back to emptiness. It's like offering, when you do water ceremony, one kind of water ceremony is offering water back to water. It's the same thing. I'm offering emptiness back to emptiness. That's the ceremony. You pray to the fire to consume what you don't need and trust the fire to do that. Right? Trust water to dissolve what we don't need anymore. Let the water wash away anything that gets in the way of us realizing our true nature. That's how we work with this. Then the second question, wondering if you have any suggestions for what to start exploring. Sufi meditative tradition, trying to explore ancestral spiritual tradition. So I don't have a lot of experience in Sufi meditative traditions. But to explore ancestral spiritual traditions, so it's an ancestral practice. So again, always the hack here is when I don't know where to begin, I just pray for guidance. So you pray to your ancestors and say, I want to do this. Where do I go? And then let the ancestors tell you how to get to where you're going. And part of the work that many of you are on or trying to do is understanding how ancestors are communicating with you. Right? This is a lot of noise, a lot of static, but how do you begin to tune into how the unseen world is directing you towards your liberation. You know, how do you begin to do that? For me, it's been prayer. It's been prayer asking, okay, how are you speaking? You know, show me the signs. How are you trying to communicate with me? And then those signs will be offered to you. All right. So that is it for today. Thank you all so much for your practice. And again, email Eric@boomingspasha.org if you're interested in learning how to do practice reading for these sessions when I'm away. Now, it won't be all of this, you know, it won't be all this advanced stuff, but it'll just be very simple, basic practice that we've done before over and over again. But hopefully it's going to be really easily facilitated. Okay, so thank you all so much for your practice. I hope to see you in some teaching or venue this week as well. All right, thank you all.